has always made its mark in history. There are even reports of its cultivation dating back thousands of years to Asia. It's fascinating to think about how cannabis is now a Schedule I substance in the US because it was actually commonly known as a medicine in the 19th century and was even featured in the US pharmacopoeia until 1941. So, how did we get from celebrating the plant as a distinguished medicine to having it federally criminalized? Our country's attitudes towards cannabis began to shift in the earliest 20th century in response to socioeconomic instances that are very clear to us now. In the 1930s, a campaign to demonize cannabis, and more importantly, its consumers, began, fueled in part by propaganda claiming that it caused violent and aggressive behavior. Propaganda was considerably filled with depictions of immigrants, Asian American immigrants, Mexican immigrants, it's just people of color, calling the intentions of the anti-cannabis promoters into question. For example, there's the notable Reefer Madness 1936 film, which portrayed men of color being a threat to young women. However, when it came to spreading anti-cannabis propaganda to white folks, it didn't say that it would make white folks aggressive and loud. It said that it would make white folks lazy. So which is it? Does it make you aggressive, loud, violent? Or does it make you a lazy couch potato that can't get anything done? Anti-cannabis promoters really geared their messages towards the specific demographics that they were trying to gather, even if it was contradicting, doesn't make any sense information. So in 1937, the federal government passed the Marijuana Tax Act, which effectively criminalized the possession and sale of cannabis, and this is now known to be the official beginning of federal cannabis prohibition in the US. The law imposed a really heavy tax on anyone who dealt in cannabis, making it nearly impossible to sell the drug legally. Sounds familiar. In 1970, the federal government classified cannabis as a Schedule I substance, alongside drugs like heroin and LSD, effectively banning it outright. So if you've ever wondered about what the Controlled Substance Act is, it basically categorizes different types of substances based on the likelihood of addiction, likelihood of overdose, and also likelihood of medicinal benefits. So the fact that cannabis is a Schedule I drug means it's the most strictly regulated, claiming it is the most likely to cause addiction, the most likely to cause an overdose, and the least likely to have any medicinal benefits. Doesn't make sense. What's worse is that, as shown by the plethora of evidence out there, the prohibition of cannabis has had a detrimental impact on early Americans, but specifically communities of color. Black and Latinx folks are still disproportionately targeted by anti-cannabis laws, and they're more likely to be arrested for cannabis-related offenses. This has undeniably contributed to racial disparities in all systems of oppression. At the same time, the prohibition of cannabis has also had a negative impact to public health. First off, because of the fact that the legal industry is so competitive and hard to participate in, those purchasing products from the illicit market do not have the safety of regulations governing product production. Users cannot be sure of the purity or the potency of the drugs that they're taking when they do not buy them from a licensed dispensary. This has led to cases of contaminated cannabis and overdose deaths from accidentally ingesting modified products. Well, you shouldn't purchase from the black market. I mean, when the industry is so expensive and the taxes on the consumers are so heavy, it does become a segregated market. In this economy, people are choosing to buy their products from places that are more familiar and perhaps just cheaper. Ultimately puts them in an unsafe position. Our industry and our government has a moral duty to make this medicine more accessible to those who truly need it. I hope that you all have fun and are enjoying your cannabis consumption, because we do deserve to celebrate. To do it in a way that's mindful, acknowledge the fact that our industry truly built on marginalized communities, and we need to talk about that because cannabis justice is social justice.